All right, lads, welcome back to another episode of Who's Got the Ball, our second one of the week. Back with a usual episode. Me and Shane here. What's the crack, Shane?
Not a whole lot, just kind of not a massive weekend of sports other than the Ireland game that you're traveling your way to. Well, not traveling, you're crossing the road to in Dublin. So looking forward to that the weekend now. There's not a whole lot else on. I don't always find these international breaks too early in the season, but it'll be good to see what Ireland can do now, and hopefully Heimer can deliver on his promise.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're forgetting the NFL is back this week. Probably slipped your
Oh, I
mind
am
there.
actually, yeah.
Yeah,
Oops.
massive. Yeah, we're just thinking soccer wise there about a weekend off, but thank God the NFL is there to save us.
Yeah.
So hopefully all you NFL fans are happy. But yeah, the Irish game, I'm buzzing for it now. I think Heimer has bigged us up a lot, and I've gone to see a couple of friendlies too, and watched numerous games over the years, obviously in the flesh, and
Mm,
there was pretty much no improvement until now. I can actually see a kind of a vision a little bit, and hopefully that comes to fruition now because this would be amazing to see them get into a World Cup. Like absolutely amazing. It would be so special, and especially after the closest we've come recently is that 2010 debacle with Thierry Henry. So
yeah.
hopefully we can finally actually get there.
But
And
even like
hopefully,
so many of the players have made such a promising start to the season as
yeah,
well. The likes of
exactly.
Josh Cullen, Evan Ferguson, they all look to be in real good form. I know
Mm,
Cullen put the ball in the wrong net at the weekend, but it wasn't exactly his fault. He's been excellent for Burnley so far, captain and
yeah.
Darajay, captain Ipswich. There's just so much to be kind of really positive about coming into the season. Casey McAteer has finally gotten a move as well. We'll see how he gets on at Ipswich now because he wasn't getting a look in at Leicester. I think there's so much to be positive about. Troy Parrott is a loss, obviously, but
Yeah.
hopefully Evan Ferguson can step up now and do it.
Yeah, Ferguson coming back kind of covers off that Parrot loss
Softens the
because
blow. Yeah,
I think like Parrott has been probably our most prolific striker over the last year or two in Europe, but Ferguson looks great so far for Roma, so hopefully he can cover that blow. And Ogbene coming back is massive.
massive.
Even
Yeah.
though he's probably not fully fit yet, but having him around the squad and having him as an option is huge. And McAteer was really good when he came on, or he didn't come on. He started against Senegal. He was
Yeah.
really good in that game, so that'll do his confidence a lot. And as you mentioned, having a lot of captains, like we've got Collins as the Brentford captain,
Brentford captain
O'Shea,
as well. Yeah.
Cullen, like it's really good. A lot of big characters, and we've got a very good keeper as well in Kelleher, who will have some usual minutes under his belt from now on. So that's
Mm.
great. This week we didn't have any NFL because we did a full preview episode earlier in the week. So go back and give that a listen with Evan if you haven't already. We give a lot of stuff in that best bets, predictions, playoff predictions, award predictions, the whole shebang. So go back and give that one a listen. But this week we touched on Man United's early season woes, where they've gone wrong, how they can improve, and what's going to happen for them in the year ahead. Then we moved on to the transfer window winners and losers across the whole summer. Then we went on to the NBA, covered three more teams in our season previews, and this week we had the Pacers, Wizards, and Magic. So three teams on very different trajectories there. It's quite interesting to see how they're going to match up in the East. And then last up, we did our final draft of the summer. Gone Chance will be back next week, so lock in for that one. We'll give some underdog picks as we did last week, as will our power rankings. So that coming back with obviously NFL and Premier League being in full flow. So our draft this week was the best teams in European international football just for the week that's in it. So give that one a listen. Final draft of the year. Let us know if you liked it. And get straight into the episode, lads. Let's do it. All right, so let's jump into our first topic. We did tease it a little bit last week and we said we'd get more into it this week while we had an international break, but it's kind of how United have been playing so far this season. Their woes early in the season. So to run through their first few results, if you weren't aware, basically they started against Arsenal. I think we could both agree that they were very good against Arsenal. They probably should have won, but they had lost 1-0, or at least got a point out of it. They go from that then into the Fulham game where they started off very well. And then when they didn't take their initial chances, it seems like they just reverted back to last year and played very similarly to how they did last year, threw that away with a 1-1 draw. Then the abysmal penalty loss to Grimsby, which is one of the low points in the recent history of the club. The players didn't seem arsed at all. They just weren't up for it one bit, which was very alarming. And then forward on to Burnley game at the weekend where they probably should have been about 6-0 up at half time, just didn't take their chances, and then managed to win in the end. But a lot of better performance there, although the scoreline wasn't overly flattering. So obviously I'm a United fan, you guys will know, but we're coming at everything like with a non-biased view, and we'll come at where they've done well, but a lot of issues too. So what's your initial feeling about them early this season?
I think so. Like we were only discussing it the other day when we were talking about the XG the most. So Arsenal have the second least created XG from open play in the league,
Mm.
and you were saying United have the most. Um, I've been extremely critical of Ruben Amorim, particularly to you. I don't think he's the man for the job. Also, but if you sack him, then you're back to square one. But there's only so much he can do. He can't be the man that puts the ball in the back of the net, unfortunately. It's up to the 200 million worth of strikers that you've signed in the summer to try and get the ball in the net. And I don't understand why he doesn't trust Seshko enough to throw him in yet. Although Mason Mount has been incredible, and he's the one that would be dropped. So there is the plus and minus to that. But 4 goals scored, 4 goals conceded in the 3 games. Three of those goals were against Burnley. As you said, should have been 6-0 up. That should be per 10 from the opening 3 games of the chances they've missed. They should have at least 7 points. Um, the point you made about players' heads dropping, like Bruno, when he missed that penalty against Fulham, it just seemed to have it out for the referee for the rest of the game because the referee walked into him and he was going back for the penalty. He just completely lost his head in that game, lost the run of himself, did absolutely nothing after missing that penalty. Just completely. That seems to be the problem they've had nearly all season. Every time they seem to get a setback, it seems to affect them all so much. They don't seem to have that get up and go. Okay, this has happened. Let's just go again.
Hmm.
Like going 1-0 down to Arsenal, it was such a poor goal to concede. Bayern has to do so much better with it. But after that, it took them 10 or 15 minutes to just kind of string three passes together again. It's like, oh, we've done so well, and now we're 1-0 down. We don't deserve this, blah, blah, blah. And they just don't seem to be able to screw their heads back on and say, okay, look, we were hit with a sucker punch. We need to go out and just do better. Same
Yeah.
with Fulham, like hit with a sucker punch. We aren't able to go back and do better. And that's
Mhm.
really, really worrying.
Yeah.
The Grimsby game, okay, they came back from 2-0 down, but like you shouldn't have to be 2-0 down to Grimsby to start playing. You shouldn't need a header from a corner and a beautiful finish to get back to 2-2. It should be header from a corner and beautiful finish, go 2-0 up, and then you coast through the next 70 minutes. It was really, really.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, obviously, from my side of things, but like looking at from an unbiased side of things, like I just don't see. There's no real fight in them from what I can see. They just seem to just once their heads go, they go, and Ruben Amorim doesn't seem to be the man that's able to lift them up again. The one, him sitting on the bench with his feet up for Bruno's
For the
penalty is
Bruno
one that
penalty.
really gets to me. Yeah, it really gets to me because I know Klopp didn't overly enjoy watching penalties, but at least he stood up and he'd look down or he'd look sideways. He wasn't there with his back to goal or sitting in the bench looking at his tactics board. Like it was really, really strange what Emery has been
Yeah.
doing.
I think
I have like
arguments,
I
but arguments like that you're making there is that's like a clinically online argument where someone looks into where somebody is standing and where somebody is looking. And it's funny to say things like that, but I've never in my life heard someone be analyzed based on where they sit or where they look outside of Man United managers. And
oh yeah,
people can say
100%.
like anything they want, but they do get like viscerally attacked in the media. And I did see off topic slightly, but a funny couple of moments on Twitter recently where we saw the amount obviously Liverpool spent, and someone said, "Watch now, the second Liverpool have spent this much money, the graphics are all going to be in net spend on Sky Sports." And don't you know, the next thing under that was Sky Sports net spend list. If that was Man United, like they didn't even include some of the things there. So my point is that everything is like kind of aimed in a way that these are things that are being nitpicked on because it's one of the biggest clubs in the world. That's why so many players can't hack it because the second they get there, like this new goalkeeper signing, all you see online is from rival fans is his biggest mistakes. This guy hasn't even played a game before in the Premier League, and I don't know a whole lot about him, but he stopped the most goals statistically amongst European keepers last year. So I think I'm willing to give him a chance. Obviously, he hasn't played a game yet, as I would be with any player. But straight away, this kind of thing of them getting attacked. And that's probably why the players, at times, I see their heads dropping and they just know they're going to get abused. And after every game, it's funny stuff online. Like, none of these players should be looking online, firstly, but it's only human nature to do it. And I think those things aren't the issue. they're like these little snippets and memes or whatever. They're not anything to do with the actual football. And I've said to the point there that Amorim, or you said the point there that Amorim may not be the right person to get the response. I think he's quite, I won't say immature because obviously he's not immature, but maybe a little bit out of his depth at times with the media
Mm,
side of things. I don't think tactically or footballing wise he's out of his depth because I think he's very knowledgeable and he could work at a number of clubs and he probably, hopefully for me, will work at United. But I think on the media side, when you're doing, I heard the guys talking on the United podcast on the Athletic. Basically, by the time he gets to those like videos with say ITV after a game or if it's on an FA Cup game or with Sky, he'll have already done around 11 or 12 interviews and they're all the same questions. And he has more media responsibilities than a lot of other coaches. So I think he probably was not prepared for that in any sense. And that doesn't help because it allows him to say more things than he probably shouldn't be saying in the media.
mm.
I do still believe that he can do well because, as you said, he can't put the ball in the net for his players. You don't need to have any sort of tactical setup as a Premier League side against Grimsby. You should still be able to beat them. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter at any point. It doesn't matter five at the back, two at the back. It doesn't matter. Like that's completely up to want and how much they wanted it. And I think when they show that they want it, like I know they didn't beat Arsenal, but they showed they wanted it. They put on a good performance. They showed they
That
wanted it
City game
against
last year.
Burnley. Yeah, the City game. They showed they wanted it against Burnley, because of they wanted a bounce back. Now they barely won, but they played well. So the question is, are you going to want it every week? Because that's the thing that's missing for me. With a lot of the players, and hopefully getting rid of some of the guys that have sucked the life out of the dressing room for years will help that in the long run. Because I think yeah, it's one person that stood out to me a lot is Mbumo. It seems like he really wants it no matter what. Even I know it's Grimsby, but when he came on, he took the game by the throat and he's like, "Lads, what are you doing here? Just give me the ball." And those are the type of people that are missing. So hopefully he can be one of the people that does turn things around a little bit.
I think the thing with Amorim as well that you said there is like he's clearly not tactically stupid. Like he knows what he's doing. And if he, let's say he was sacked by United in the morning and went to Bayer Leverkusen, I'd back him and Leverkusen to push Bayern Munich really, really close because they play the same system as he does. They have the players in there already. Um, I just don't know if it's this United squad just seems to be kind of who are the big characters. So like Bruno is a big character, but not in the right sense of the word for me. He seems so petulant, and you
I
can try
wouldn't
and argue
agree
that
with
against
that.
me if you
I
want.
wouldn't agree with that at all.
And like, he loses his head so often and just drifts in and out of games. And I know he's the one. He was the only man pressing in the game last year. He was running around after everyone like a headless chicken. And I know he's trying to get people to do it with him,
Mm.
but. I don't think I'd want him to be the captain of my football club, especially if you're trying to get back towards the top of the league. You want someone who's Arsenal's captain. Odegaard, I wouldn't want him as my captain either, to be perfectly honest. I want a Gabriel or a Saliba to be captain there. Um,
I
I
think
think
with
I
Bruno,
see.
though, it's like there's constant, this thing that he fades in and out of games. I don't think it's physically possible for him to phase in and out of games if already this season he's created the most chances out of any player and he's won the ball back more than any other player. He's playing in a position that he's not supposed to play in that position,
No,
and he's
absolutely not.
he's
But
still
that is
winning the
another
ball
problem.
back more than anybody else. So
Himself and Casemiro is not a good centre midfield
no, it's
partnership. If you
not. It's
want
far from it.
coming up against like you've Man City next.
Mm,
Now I know they're no great shakes at start the season either. We might get into them next week when is the international break, but they've had an awful start to the season as well. They've
yeah.
been really, really poor. Even the Wolves game, they won 4-0, but to start that game, Wolves had the goal disallowed. They had another couple of chances. If Wolves
They're
go one
very
or two nil
open
up in
to.
that, yeah, there's no way the City come back and win that game if Wolves are 1 or 2 nil up after 20 or 25 minutes.
Mm,
But if you go into that game starting Bruno and Casemiro as your midfield too, then I think you'll be in trouble no matter how bad City are because Reinders, Rodri, Foden, Bernardo Silva, maybe not Foden, but Bernardo Silva, like that's a midfield three that will absolutely walk all over Casemiro and Bruno. And I just don't see how that goes well for you, especially
yeah.
when you are missing so many chances and leaving so many goals on the pitch as well. So that would be a
Mm.
really interesting game when we come back from the international break. But
Yeah, it's a
I
massive one
just
for
like,
both teams.
yeah, like I understand you have massive belief in Ruben Amorim that I just don't see, and
It's not that I have a
I
massive belief in him. Like I have said to you that, I'm not sure if he is the right man. I would like to believe that he is. And
mm,
there's certain things I've seen from him that I'm like, this makes no sense. Like you need to change from that. But in another sense, I understand he believes exactly what his viewpoint is, and it's quite difficult to play the system. Like as you mentioned, they don't have the squad. The main thing is they don't have good enough wing backs,
mm.
and that's a tiresome job that you need to be rotated in and out of. And when you barely have any options anyway, it's pretty tough. And then when your midfield is poor, the midfield is, I think, this year getting bailed out a little bit at times because De Ligt is quite good at that jumping forward from the centre back role, which is what you need to do in this system. So I think he's the man that needs to keep playing going forward. I don't want to see Maguire in that centre back role because he can't do that, whereas De Ligt can, and that's massive in this system. But that's a bit in the tactical weeds. But I know you did mention about early on about the expected goals. I just wanted to give a few stats from the first. I know it's a small sample size; it's just 3 games, but so far this season, United have had 55 shots. Second is 44. Brentford, 6.8 expected goals. That's above. That's first in the league. Also, Chelsea are 6.7. The most shots on target per game have been Liverpool at 5.7. United are on 5.3 in second place. The most touches in the opposition box is also United with 99, 12 ahead of Bournemouth in second. Accurate crosses per game, 6.7, most in the league. Accurate long balls per game, more than 6.7, more than second place. So the players are actually picking up on what he wants to do, clearly. But they still haven't scored enough goals, and I think that's leading to them mentally kind of dropping at times. But
Mm.
I think it's going to come. And
But
also
that was
another
the
massive one
problem.
for me.
That
One
was the
one more
problem
massive one
last.
is
Yeah,
that if you look at second ball win rate, which is, I'd say if you looked at United over the last 10 years, they were probably last in the league on this because of their lack of effort. They have 68% second ball win rate, which is more than Brighton in second place, who have 61. So they're massively outperforming a lot of other teams in a number of key places so far. If they can start putting the ball in the net, things will change massively, in my opinion. But if they continue to have struggle in front of goal, then there's going to be a massive issue for Amorim because no matter what else you do, if you don't score, that's the main part of the game.
yeah. But even last year, 44 goals in 38 games. Like
Hmm.
that's not really going to get you anywhere. Just looking here, West Ham's okay, 46, not too much more. Wolves finish a place below you, 54. Spurs, 64. The only three teams from what I can see here now are they're the only teams that scored less than you. The three that are relegated and
Was this
Everton
last year?
last year, yeah.
But that's
So
not
it's
relevant to this argument of how
oh
they've
wait,
played
no,
at the
I
start of
know, but
this season.
I'm just saying that like your problem last year was scoring goals as well, and your
Yeah,
problem at the
of
start this
course.
season has been putting the ball in the net as well. And as you said, if that doesn't improve, then you're going over because you can have all the expected goals you want, but the expected goals don't put points on the board at the end of the
Hmm.
day, unfortunately.
Exactly.
I
That's the
think,
point of what I'm trying to
yeah,
say. That if he
yeah, no,
doesn't
100%,
have
I
the
know,
goals, then they're in trouble. But
yeah,
comparing to last year, that was the main issue, and that's why they spent money on forwards. So these forwards need to start delivering. But last year's goals, the way they played last year, is not the same as this year. It's very, very different, as can be seen from that Arsenal performance and
mm,
the early game against Fulham, and then most of the Burnley game. They played way different than they did last year. So I think that shows a little bit how they're getting the system, but at the same time, they have to score. So expected goals means nothing if you don't put
mm.
the ball in the net. But last year they couldn't even create enough chances that were solid. Bruno was putting the ball in a lot. There was chances there, but outside of him, who was doing anything? There was nobody. So that was an
I
issue.
yeah, I have one question for you, and we can move on then. Do you think he should have a backup system? So if the 3-5-2 is a 3-4-3 isn't working, he takes off a centre back and brings on a forward and goes to 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1. Do you think that should be an option? Because he's so wedded to this 3-4-3 that even when it's going really, really badly wrong, he won't like he'll just change the centre back, bring on Mesraoui and get him to push higher up. Like I think every manager should be able to play him more than one way. and he doesn't seem to have anything else in his locker outside of this 3-4-3. If he had a 4-4-2 in his back pocket where he brings on a winger, now he doesn't really have any wingers left when you think about it because he's gotten rid of them all, but where he brings on
Mm.
someone that can just make it a four at the back instead of a five and they push further up and try and get goals. Think that should be an option, or are you happy to just keep going with this 3-4-3?
Yeah, I think that should be an option. It has to be an option. And I think you kind of answered your own question a little bit when you made the point about bringing on Mazraoui and then he may push up. Formation in modern football is not
Doesn't
very
matter.
important.
Mm,
If you play on paper a 3-4-3, if you watch Man United, a lot of the time they defend with four at the back. And then there's other times they defend with five at the back, as do a lot of teams that play with three. So they play multiple formations within every single game. I think that's just an initial setup. And a lot of times players do move in and out where you may have a centre back pushing into midfield and then the wing backs come back and you have four when they defend in a certain way. Or you may have where they build up with only two. Or they have sometimes where they build up with two centre backs, one of the midfielders drops and the two wing backs push up. So it's all variations. And I think that's why it's so difficult for some of these players because they're just not capable, they're not good enough.
mm. They're
And
stupid.
they some of them couldn't understand the system and that's why they're
Yeah,
gone. They couldn't understand their position in it and they didn't want to accept it. So my answer is yes, I think he needs to have more formations available, but they have more formations in every single game they play. If like tactically you watch where they move on the pitch, it's just some of the players don't get it and they don't know how to. They're not capable as well of covering the ground that they need to and to rotate. So I think he does know that, and that's probably a lot of his frustration too, because it's kind of a hard thing to explain to media, and the media will not want to listen to some convoluted
yeah,
answer to them. So one final thing before we move on. I know we spent a long time about this, but obviously United have been very, very poor, and sometimes they have moments of flashes, so it's hard to fully dissect it. But with the Sesko thing, the reason he hasn't played much is because he basically had no preseason. He didn't play much with Leipzig, and then he came to United and he wasn't fully fit. And that Grimsby game, after playing 90 minutes on a watery pitch, he had such bad cramps, like he couldn't play at the weekend. That's why he came on for only like 15 minutes. So it's very frustrating not being able to see him enough, but there's a reason behind it so far. So I'd say give that one time. I think after
yeah.
the international break, we'll probably see him more.
I think not getting a centre mid in the end will come back and bite you a bit if you have to go with Casemiro and Bruno for the season. But we'll move on
Mm.
to the transfer window now anyway and talk about
Yeah.
our winners and losers.
Well, you know my feeling on that anyway, with
Yeah,
hopefully Manu is the long term solution there, but that's another
needs to be.
conversation totally. So the transfer window in general, we've obviously talked about a lot of United signings there, but we each picked a winner and a loser for the transfer window, a team that we thought kind of won with the deals they did, and a team that we thought lost. So we'll start with our winners. I'll let you go first and throw yours out there. I don't think anyone will be surprised with your answer.
Yeah, I think there was only one way to go with this, and it absolutely had to be Liverpool. Um, I genuinely do think it was a 10 out of 10 window. The only player we went for and didn't get, by all accounts, is Mark Way, and that was nothing to do with him not wanting to come or Liverpool pulling the plug at the last second. It was Palace not getting in their replacement and just scuppering it. Maybe he's better off staying there playing a bit of football between now and
And Steve,
January.
do
And
you see the thing about Steve Parish today? Apparently, he was in like a
yeah,
fitness class till
yeah,
6 p.m.
outrageous, absolutely outrageous. When you look at who they brought in, so Isak 125 million, Veer's 114 million, Ekitike, sorry, these are all in euro now, so I'm going to have to change it up.
Oh
So
yeah.
Isak 145 million euro, Veer's 125 million euro, Ekitike 99 no, sorry, 95 million euro, Kirkes 46, Frimpong 40, Giovanni Leone 41, Freddie Woodman free transfer, what a goalkeeper, and Mamardashvili 25 million. Like it's just the squad is so much stronger this year than it was last year. I said to you recently, I would have loved one more forward, especially now when you
Just
look and
outrageous.
Chiesa has been left out of the Champions League squad as well. So clearly, I'm not sure if there is trust there that like it looked to be for the first couple of games of the season. 482.9 million is some spending.
That's
Um,
great.
considering if they gotten in Mark Way, that's pushing it over 500 million. And if I got my other forward, you're probably looking at close to 600 million. So it's a bit
Yeah, it's,
silly, like.
I don't think
But
they
bringing
need
in,
it in the long run though. That extra forward, I think
no,
that
probably not.
at all. Like I wouldn't think they do. But yeah.
Also, bringing in 219.5 million is really good in for sales.
Mhm.
Second to Chelsea, who brought in almost 300 million, which is, I wish
They're
people would
pretty good
stop
at it
buying
too.
players from Chelsea.
Because they keep selling
I
to
wish people
themselves,
would,
so it's easy enough.
yeah, exactly, yeah. To see that lad they sold in
No,
July
it's
and
like
bought back and then sent on loan to Swansea. He was a Strasbourg player for 33 days, but anyway,
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I just think Liverpool's window was really, really exceptional.
Yeah, the signings that they got in were really good. It's hard to argue with your point. I don't think there's any way on earth that they should have signed another forward because the forward they would have wanted is going to be way too expensive, and I think
Mm.
that would have been, you know, that would have been a crazy money. And also, I just can't see like obviously, unless there's an injury, then you're saying okay, maybe. But so maybe in January if there's an injury between now and then. But someone's going to be very very disappointed on a weekly basis if there was another forward in there.
Chiesa, by the
Gak,
looks of
Gak,
it.
yeah, Gakpo is already going to be disappointed probably most weeks to be on the bench.
Mm.
So yeah, but the signings, I think I already said multiple times about Frimpong, how good he's been at Leverkusen and how I was so excited to see him. Obviously, the Premier League is different, but I do think he has the ability. And Isak then is the big one. He's going to bang in so many goals. We've already seen him do it in the Premier League, so to have him and Ekitike as striking options, both of them come in the one window, it's brilliant work. But my option then was who I picked was Nottingham Forest. I think what we said about them, what I said anyway about them when we did the preview of them throughout the summer was that their main thing in the transfer window was to bring in more depth because now that they're playing in Europe, the squad they have isn't deep enough. But they've done exactly that. They went pretty mad towards the end of the window. Some of the main ones then, also these are in Euro. Amari Hutchinson for 43.4 million, Dan and for 42 million, Dylan Bakwa for 35 million, Cali Muendo for 30 million, James McAtee 25.5. They signed four players, sorry, in total from Botafogo in Brazil. A couple of those were
Mm.
impressive during the Club World Cup, but let's not speak too much on that one. Who knows what's going on there? Backup right back then, Nicolo Savona from Juventus, 13 million. And then one I really, really like, which I already mentioned, is Douglas Luiz on loan. He's a solid player. He's been great in the Premier League. And then they got Zinchenko on loan too. The thing that was impressing me the most is that the average age of the players they brought in was 24.1 years old.
Mm.
So that's a clear message there that they're trying to get younger but also get deeper. There you have like three options that can play right wing alone. So it's quite interesting to see where those guys are going to play. They're obviously going to rotate in Europe, and then in terms of their sales, I think they did very well here on the other side of things. Selling Anthony Elanga for 61.4 million euro, selling Danilo back to Botafogo 23 million euro. They also sold Sosa, Amabamidele, Matt Turner, Carlos Miguel, and Lewis O'Brien all for fees. So those guys all went out at an average age of 26.1, so you're getting a couple of years younger, and they got 133 million in, so they only spent about 100 million euro net. I think that's brilliant for the amount of guys they got in, and I think they're well set up now for the year ahead with this squad. As long as they can keep Nuno happy and he stays in place, they're laughing at this point. But obviously, if he goes, it's a different story. Who knows what's going to happen because he is a really really good manager.
Yeah, I think they're absolutely mad. Just the way they went about it in the last couple of days in the window. So they finished up signing two keepers, two left backs, a right back, six forwards, a centre back, and a defensive midfielder. They basically just signed a new first team squad if they can all get on the pitch. It's just the Zinchenko one is a really strange one to me. I just don't really see the sense in it, but I suppose Joe, that might be his level, dropping down to
Some
that kind of a
experience,
level where
maybe.
it's yeah, like Joe, he has that winner mentality. Maybe that's what they were looking for. The Botafogo thing is really weird to me. It kind of it stinks of John Texter's Crystal Palace era ending and him making a new partnership there with Marinakis, but I just think like they bought four and sold one, and the first two they signed and selling Danilo all worked out to be zero net profit for either of them. So just feels PSR diddly, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how they get on. I think they needed left backs anyway because the one they were using last year was Moreno, and he's gone back to
Mhm.
Villa.
Yeah,
I don't know who their backup left back was last year, which says enough. I
yeah. I
don't
don't
think they
think they
needed
really
to
have.
sign two right backs, but one of them is Brazilian. He's a little kid, like, so he could be one for the
Yeah,
future. You man, and then the other fella is a 22-year-old from Juventus, so he's probably the main backup to Ole coming into the season.
I think some of them are
I don't know.
versatile as well. Like that centre back, the
Yeah,
young guy from Brazil. I think he can play in centre back as well. And you did make the point there that he's young. Some of these guys are 20, 21, 22, so they're not
yeah.
going to play every week.
And the best deal they did was getting rid of Elanga and bringing in Dan and Doy because I think Dan and Doy will have a much bigger output than Elanga had. Elanga hasn't done a whole lot for Newcastle, but run really fast at people so far. So that's kind of what he was doing for
I think
Forest all
he'll
of
I
last year
think
as
he'll
well.
be very good when Voltemada plays or even
Yeah, because he
Vissa
can cross
because
the
at
ball to
least
him.
he has a man in the middle. That's what he had at
Yeah,
Forest with Chris Wood. So he needs that because he does put in a good cross and he's fast, but he doesn't really have the finishing. So I think he needs the assists really to make it count. But I agree with you that getting Ndoye in was probably more what Palace needed, as we've said a few times, because they needed more goals outside of Wood. So they got that there. And I think Bakwa is a good option as well as a right winger, a proper like pacey right winger, different option for Ndoye. So I think they've covered a lot of bases there and they've really improved their squad, which is exactly what you want to do. And only spending 100 million euro to do that
yeah,
is very, very impressive, despite some of the bigger fees that they did pay.
yeah,
Looking at the losers, then we've got two. I'll go first with this one,
yeah,
and then throw it to you. I've got Fulham. They just did basically nothing until the very end. They signed Kevin from Shakhtar Donetsk. Yeah, Brazilian left winger. I think this is like a back to a 2010 signing where a winger from Shakhtar Donetsk, who's
actor.
Brazilian, comes
Yeah,
to the Premier League, who only has one name. I don't know anything about the guy, so he could be good. But apart from that, they signed Chukwueze on loan from AC Milan, who I don't think
Milan.
is any great shakes personally. They signed a backup goalkeeper for 500,000 who's 34 years of age, and they signed a lone striker from Bayern, Kusi Asare, and he's only 18. I don't know how much he's going to play because they're already rotating Muniz and Jimenez. So I think that's
Yeah,
pretty pointless. They spent 44 million euro in total, and then they lost Andres Pereira, who was very important to them, I thought, for the last few years, and not replacing him is a mistake. They also sold a young winger, Martial Godo, to Strasbourg for 7 million euro. And then they loaned out Carlos Vinicius, and Reece Nelson went back to Arsenal, and Willian's contract ran out. So they barely did anything, and they needed to actually get in some solid players if they wanted to improve. I feel like they're just happy to
yeah,
finish mid table, and it's very underwhelming of a window for their fans.
yeah. I reckon Marcus Silva is human. They had a really good season last year under him, and this was their year to try and kind of kick on.
Yeah.
Brentford were going to be weaker this year. West Ham were going to be weaker this year. There's a lot of teams around them who were going to be weaker, and they didn't go out and just kind of put the money on the table to say, okay, we believe in you. Let's go and do something. Like they didn't make any real signings until deadline day. Like that 18-year-old from Bayern Munich is not going to play a game of football this year.
No, he did get
Paying
10
four
minutes
million
the
alone
other.
for him. Like, yeah, exactly. It's very, very strange. I agree with you. Chuck Wazy, when he was 18 and 19, he had the world at his feet. Now he just doesn't. I've never seen Kevin kick a ball in my life, so fair play to him. I wish him all the best, like, because I do love a Brazilian with a mad name. How'd you pick Kevin when you're coming from Brazil? Like, it's just like where does it come from? So I wish him all the best, but I think there was so much potential there for him, and then they let it go. They like why did they pull out of the Tyreek George deal at the end? I think he'd have been a good bit of business for them. They pulled out because
Mhm.
they couldn't sell Harry Wilson to Leeds, so they stopped signing Tyreek George. Like
But they
Tyreek
needed
George
another
would have
player
been,
anyway.
yeah, Tyreek George would have been a massive upgrade on what Harry Wilson is.
Mhm.
Harry Wilson is a top of the championship player. I think he probably should have moved on this summer. Would have been better for him. Um, and yeah, they've had a stinker. there's really very little more to say in it. Like I actually, there's no redeeming qualities for their window. You've I could talk redeeming qualities for many of the other teams. I could give United a couple of redeeming qualities. I could probably give West Ham one if I looked into it fair enough. Your man Juve has been unbelievable for the start of the season. For now, they can't cross the ball. He put in a hell of a cross for Callum Wilson at the weekends. Like so,
Yeah,
but there's just no redeeming qualities for this Fulham window at all.
yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't think there's anything really to celebrate there. So we'll move on to yours.
Yeah, I feel for Aston Villa fans, but this window was coming, and it's because of how badly they've spent their money in the last couple of years, which has led to them only been able to spend 30 million and having to make a profit to comply with UEFA. They had to sell their homegrown talent in Ramsey, who a lot of players come out and said they were really unhappy about. Um, Bringing in Jadon Sancho is a stinking move by any club. I think it should be a sackable offence for any award at this stage, honestly. The only fella they spent money on was a backup striker, Evan Gousand.
Yeah.
I do think he's really good, but he didn't look anything like a footballer against Palace at the weekend. But none of them did, in fairness. Um, Harvey Elliott's a good bit of business. I can't believe the game the number 9 shirt though. That's driven me insane already, and he hasn't even kicked the ball from yet. And then Marco Bizzo, who I presume came in thinking he was going to be the number one goalkeeper. Emmy Martinez looked like he was definitely out the door sitting by his phone on deadline day for no one to call him. That's Jesus, it's that's embarrassing for him. He was crying himself off the pitch in the last game of the season, thinking
Yeah.
this is it, and now he's going to have to look at those people in the eyes again and say, "Oh, I really want to be here." You clearly don't. Do they go back to him? Do they stick with Marco Bizzo despite the fact he had a stinker at the weekend?
Mm.
Apparently, they tried to sign Asensio, they tried to sign Rashford, they tried to sign another couple of others that just didn't go through. They tried to sign the lap, and they've ended up with Sancho, Harvey Elliott, and Victor Lindelof as their options. I think their problems go back to signing Onana for 50 odd million. Matson, like none of these lads are doing anything in the first team. Buendia, another one, a lot of money from Norwich and just doesn't affect the first team. Leon Bailey gone out loan now. They spent 31 million on him. And the other lad they signed from Bayer Leverkusen who's in Saudi Arabia now. Diaby, another one where they just wasted the money. They've like these teams say, "Oh, we can't spend money because of financial fair play." They've just spent their money really badly, and that's the problem. Newcastle are another team who've spent their money quite badly over the last couple of years, and it's what has them in this position. I think
I don't
this,
think they've spent their
I
money
just,
badly at all. Look at
but
the team they've
they
built.
spent, yeah, now they're fine, but I'd like they spent 35 million on Chris Woods. So they like if you're going back a
Oh
couple
yeah,
of years, I think
we're
that's.
talking a long way back though. At
Yeah,
that point,
so but now like I think the squad they have now is exceptional and they were in my top three when I was looking at windows to talk up, especially how badly it was looking like it was going to go to where they finished with. I actually think they're okay. I think a lot of money went out on this in the end, but we're not talking about Newcastle, we're talking about Villa and I just don't see where they go from here. I don't see how they push it and try and get top six, top seven again. I think neither of us have had them in our top six or top seven when we did our little Premier League prediction.
uh, I think both of us had them fifth.
Did we?
So yeah, I
Okay.
think
Well,
so.
then we're I
Yeah,
think we
we're
should
looking.
edit that and re-upload it then maybe.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think we did. We hit the nail on the head there, especially with how they started. Yeah, we both had them fifth, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, not great, but yeah, it's just a really bad window. As you said, they spent money badly in other seasons. I actually think the Onana signing was probably a little bit much, but it was a really good signing. I actually think he's a really, really good player. And who's the other person you mentioned also? Matson is good, but they just
Matson.
like they
They
haven't
didn't need
used
him.
him the
Yeah.
best way that they could have, which is a very bad trait to sign players that and you're not even really able to use them properly. Yeah, Sancho on loan, Elliot on loan. If you want to be say a top 4 or 5 team and you're getting loan players from other teams that want to be in that position too, and they don't want them anymore, then you're kind of having to look at yourself there and say like, why are we getting these players? Because the
Mm.
other team is happy to let them go. And then like the Marco Bizot thing, hilarious interview with Emre, like where
Yeah.
all he said is Marco Bizot, and now Martinez was completely used by United. They just did that to get the Lamans deal through, and
Mm.
now he's got egg on his face and he has to go back there. That kind of makes the window even worse. But yeah, it doesn't also help with the amount of money that the likes of Martinez is on. Like that's not going to help them either with fair play. So they're in a very tricky situation, and this window has definitely not helped them. I actually think Lindelof is all right as a backup, but if you see him starting, then you know you're in serious
You're in
trouble.
trouble.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
he's
think
probably a grand four choice centre back. But
yeah,
like
exactly.
Tyrone Mings is quite injury prone. Another fella just popped in my head they spent big money on is now nowhere to be seen, it's Diego Carlos. They spent 30 odd
Mm.
million on him and he never fit into that squad there. But looks fit never fits in anywhere, but looks fit. So it was a really another really, really badly spent money.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
I
I
think
would
I
say
think PSR is going to be their problem for another couple of years. And so to miss out on Champions League on the last day last season. And now I don't see how to get anywhere near it this year. We'd have
yeah,
to wait and
especially
see.
after
But
that start that they've just had, haven't even
yeah,
scored yet in three
no
games.
goals. Yeah, yeah. I think they've had a bit of a shocker to start, and we'll just have to wait and see what they can do. But
Yeah, and I can tell you for certain that Sancho isn't going to help. So
no,
they're in a sticky situation there. Covering 80% of his massive wages too is a lot. So
mad.
yeah, that's pretty tough. But that's our transfer window kind of wrapped up. We covered the transfers every single week, and now we've given our winners and losers. So hopefully you enjoyed our coverage of it. Now with that being gone, and the NFL coming back this weekend, after the international window is over, that means that Gone Chance is going to be back next week, as is the power rankings. So get ready for that. That is on the way.
I'll be defending my crown.
He's defending his crown. We're locking back in another big season. But let's move on then to the NBA. We've got three more teams to preview. No NFL talk this week because the season is, it will be one game down when you listen to this. And we did a full preview already earlier in the week. So if you didn't listen to that, go back and give that a listen. It was a great episode with Evan. But NBA stuff. First is the Pacers. Usual questions. Let's get into them. Where do they need to improve most from last season in your eyes?
So their wing and interior depth. They've no real lockdown defenders on the wing. They never have. They now have very limited center options with Miles Turner gone as well. I don't know who they've signed or if they brought in anyone big that's really going to fill his void. I think that would be their biggest issue this coming season if they don't sort out that center position.
Yeah, I think the center is the main one. I do like Neesmith on the wing. I think he's a very good defender, so I would more so highlight the center position. And actually, when we get to the under the radar question, I'll throw out an answer there. But the guy is an under the radar player. He's not a starting level, which is the issue. But my thing was just to find a way to continue to play the way that they have been without Haliburton. Because I
Haliburton.
think whenever they see him off the floor, TJ McConnell does try and push the pace, but he does have a lot of turnovers when he does that. And I
Mm.
think if you stray like really, really far from the way they were playing with Halliburton, then it may be difficult to kind of lock back in quickly to that money return. So I would like to see them continue to at least try and play similarly to that style. I think Lampard is going to have a lot of ball handling, a lot more than he's used to, which will be good for him in the long run. So I don't think they'll be very good this season, but I think they need to continue at least similarly in the way they play to kind of utilize Halliburton the best when he comes back. But the next question is one under the radar player you like for the team. Since I already teased it, I'll throw mine out.
Mm.
It's Jay Huff. He turned into a solid enough option off the bench for Memphis. He traveled around in his first 3 years. He initially was with the Lakers. He was also with the Wizards and Nuggets, but he never really did a whole lot. Last year, he broke into the Memphis team a little bit. 12 minutes per game, 7 points and two boards, and he shot the three a little bit. So that's kind of like a very, very discount option of Miles Turner. I would like him as a backup to Turner, but obviously Turner is gone now. So yeah, he's a guy that'll do well, but hopefully they don't try and use him too much because he won't be able.
Yeah, you're talking about good options off the bench there, and that's I've gone with one myself. So Benedict Maturin last year, 30 minutes a game, 16 points. Really, really solid every time he came on the floor. 30 minutes a game is quite high. Like consider the game's only 48 minutes. He did play quite a lot last year. He's still only 23. Is this the time for him to try and break into that starting five, especially with Halliburton gone? Does he come in and start starting games? bring him up to 20, 22 points a game and see where they go. As you said previously, I don't think they will be very good this year. So this is the year to try and give lads like him a chance to really try and show what they can do and see if they can build a future around them when Haliburton does come back.
Yeah, I really, really like Maturin. I think he's good. He has good physicality, and the way he's able to score in isolation is very good, and he can get to the line. He can do things a lot of players on the team can't do. The main issue I have with him is he just kind of does what he wants most of the time when he's out there.
Yeah.
And in the finals, in that last game when Haliburton went down and they were trailing by like 10 in the third, my call was to put Maturin on and let him go ISO. And when they actually did that in the fourth, they cut the lead down to like closer to 10 again when it was close to 20. So he
Mm.
can do those things. But again, the issue is if you want to keep playing the same style, he may not be your guy. So hopefully he can mature a little bit and figure out his place in the system that can then translate to when Haliburton returns, because
Yeah.
that would be really good for them and good for him if he can do that. So I like him a lot and I like that shout. Then their over under wins is 38 and a half. They had 50 last year. What do you think?
I really, really struggle with it. To be honest, I just think it's so hard because the loss of Halliburton is so big. But I also think dropping from 50 wins to under 38 and a half is massive. So I've gone from to go over, but not by much, maybe 40 or 41 wins. Um, I think it's too big a drop for any team, and especially a team who were so good last year. I know they've lost their main piece, but they still have talent around that can keep them kind of in with a chance of getting a playoff. So I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they just about go over.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everything you said there, I think it was really, really tough. And being without like probably their best two players in Turner and Halliburton this year, to me that puts them around the Bulls level who got like 39 or 40 last year.
Yeah,
So that's what I think they will get around 40. Just because I do think they still have talent and the East is weak enough that they can do it. But again, it was a really tough one and you never know if they get on a really bad slump, they might pack it in and then
yeah.
they'll go downhill. So this kind of depends on their start for me. And then looking at their ceiling with the current roster and coach, I've gone with an eight seed. If they did manage to get like 41 or 42 wins, they could get the eight seed. And then I think they just lose in the first round because they don't have enough to compete. But I think that's the very, very best that they could do.
Yeah, I said the same. Between 7 and 9 seed is where they'll probably land coming into next year. I think their core is still strong, but it's just their depth is nowhere to be seen now with losing
Mhm.
Turner and Halliburton for the year.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Moving on then to a kind of a team that maybe they're in the ascendancy, but I think it could be a long time before we see it. It's the Washington Wizards. So where do they need to improve most from last season for you?
So they ranked among the bottom in defensive rating and 3 point percentage. They were 27th and 29th. So that really needs to improve if they are going to do anything. Do they want to do anything is the big question for them coming into this year again, or do they want to keep tanking and keep getting those lottery picks? I have to wait and see.
Yeah, I I think very similar. I said that last year they attempted a lot of threes, 39.1 per game, and that's 10th in the league, but they had one of the worst conversion percentages
Mm.
at 33.5%. So that was the second worst in the league for 3-point percentage. Um they won't win games because of this improving, but it still does need to improve because if that improves, it'll bring games closer and the fans can kind of get a little bit more behind the team and see where they're going, and maybe they can get a few extra wins because of it. And then to tie into that, one under the radar player that I like is Trey Johnson, the pick that they got in the last draft, because he kind of does add that. He had 1 year at the Texas Longhorns, played 35 minutes a game, averaging 20 points, 3 boards, and 3 assists, and he shot seven threes per game at 40%. So he's a very good 3-point shooter, and he's not afraid to pull up from anywhere and shoot. So I think it's good to have a confident guy like that coming off 1 year of college, only 19 years of age, and they're not expecting a whole lot this year, so they can kind of let him fly. And
Mm.
I think he'll be a very big addition and a strong one to this team. So I liked him coming in there, and kind of it helps in a position that they do need it. So that's my under the radar guy. Did you have somebody different?
I've gone with Alexander Sarr. He's been playing really well for France in the Eurobasket this year. He averaged 13 points last year. this team is nothing special. He might be the shining light from going into this season. We'll have to wait and see. He does handle the ball really well. He can defend a bit, but again, do they want him to defend, or do they want him to let people stroll past him so they can get that tank going again? But we'll have to wait and see. But I think he's a real talent. He's a shining light for him.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's a good player, and I do like a little bit what they're building. It probably won't show this year, and maybe not even next year. But I do like
Yeah.
him, and I like Koulibaly. I like Trey Johnson. I like some of the pieces that they have. So yeah, he's definitely one for the future, and good size to him as well. So that's important. Looking at the over under, then it's 20 and a half. They had 19 last year. I think that they can get an extra couple just with some of their young core kind of chomping at the bit to try and win some games and not being afraid to go out there and they don't want to lose. They want to have good performances and just
Mm.
getting maybe three more wins over the line and barely scraping by this. So I'm going to take the over, but just about.
Yeah, it's very hard not to take the under. Um, but I have gone over as well, and just about I have them at about 20 in a round. They might just get to 20 and then kind of sit there and hope they can finish bottom of their division with that. But I don't know. Like it wouldn't surprise me if they, like as you said, they did get 19 wins last year.
Yeah,
So
19.
it's not that big a jump to say to get 21. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. Then with their ceiling, what did you have for this?
I just said that they're clearly still in rebuild mode, so that their ceiling is getting the highest draft pick they can. They're years away from playoff contention. It's just about developing what they have and getting high draft picks and hoping they can start pushing on the next couple of years.
Yeah, I just said 25 wins. I think they're too young to do any more than that.
Yeah,
And the older guys are going to start getting traded because they do still have uses to other teams that are in better positions. So I think they'll probably trade those guys away as the season goes along. Moving on to a team then that people are really excited about for the year ahead, and probably one of the Eastern Conference favorites. It's the Orlando Magic. Where they need to improve most from last season, I kind of tied it in to the point about the Wizards because the only team that was worse in 3 point percentage last year than the Wizards was the Magic. They had 31.8% last year. KCP did not help in the slightest. They got him in to do that, but now they've added Desmond Bain. It's something that they'll expect from him. He's a confident 3 point shooter. He does shoot at volume. Across his 5 year career so far, he's been attempting six per game, and that's at 41%. But even if he does do very well, they need more 3 point percentage output from Franz and Paolo because although that's not their game, you can't be as bad as they have been and be like the top players in this league because that's what they expect to be. And if you really have a very, very poor 3 point shot, teams are going to take advantage of that and allow you the space on the perimeter and kind of guard Bane like a little bit harder on the perimeter, but not
yeah,
them. So last year, Franz was 29.6% on six attempts per game, and Paolo was 32% on six attempts per game. So really, really bad and not good enough at all. So they need to step up as well as Bane kind of filling
yeah.
in.
So I did look at that. I didn't go with it. I went with how high their turnover rate was last year. They ranked 26th in the league for turnovers, and they also ranked 24th in the league for giving away free throws. Both of those
They
need
love to
to.
foul.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to say if they need to come up or they need to come down, but they need to be a lot better than 26th and 24th if they are going to, like, they just need to mature basically. They need to be better at controlling themselves instead of giving away so many free throws. And turnovers are massive. The Rockets love to turn the ball over and it drives me absolutely insane. The Magic are the same. I think if I was a Magic's fan, I'd be tearing my hair the same way I am when I'm watching the Rockets at times. So if both of them improve, then they can really be a good, strong contender coming into the season.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a few key points that they can do, and those things are actually like very doable. And I think
Mm,
if they actually just lock into it and they
it's
focus on
concentration.
those, yeah, like just
Yeah,
they're a very good defensive team, but their offense just stinks. So I think if they can cut the fouls down on the defensive side and improve with their 3 point percentage, then they'll be striding a lot further than they did last year. So one under the radar player then that you like on the team, who have you gone for?
I've gone almost very under the radar, but Anthony Black last year, 24 minutes, 9 points a game. can he be another man who kind of makes a step up? Maybe not in minutes, but in terms of bringing his points up to double figures over the course of the year off the bench and just see what he can do. Maybe he can have a breakout year.
Yeah, I think they probably expect him to step up a little bit, but again, it is a little bit hard. He was good in college, and I think the issue with them for a long time has been they haven't had a solid backup point guard, and
Yeah,
the person I've highlighted here is probably someone that Anthony Black can learn from, and that's Tyus Jones. He was a very good signing, I think, getting him in from the Suns last year. He's already played with Bain at the Grizzlies as well, which is, I don't know, that might help. I don't know what kind of relationship they have, but it can't hurt.
yeah,
And he's always been a solid backup point guard. So I think that's way overdue, something they needed. Last year, he averaged 27 minutes per game with the Suns, 5 assists per game, 10 points per game. And he also stepped up to a career high in 3 point attempts at 5 per game and a career high in 3 point percentage at 41.4%. So those are things the team really needs, and he kind of brings that all in one package. So I actually almost like that signing more, if not equally, to the Bain one. I know the Bain was kind of a
mad
big
one.
splash that they traded
Yeah,
for, but Tyus Jones is a good free agent signing, so I think they've done very well with that, and I like him a lot. And then looking at their over under wins, it's 50.5. Last year they had 41 wins. So it's a very big jump. But I do think the team has
yeah,
improved massively. Getting in Bain, a year of having Suggs healthy, fingers crossed, and Tyus Jones coming in now, I think that should push them to that kind of Knicks Pacers level of last year and get to over that. So I think they're probably going to hit 51, 52. So I would take the over if I was to pick, but it's not something I would probably be betting on.
yeah. I don't like it. I think it's very, very high. I think a 10 game jump is humongous. So I think they'll fall somewhere between the 41 and the 51. Maybe they'll get close, but I don't think they'll get there enough. Like to go from a 500 team to maybe a 600 or 650 is asking a lot over the course of one off season. It's the same. Like we'll talk about the Rockets in a few weeks, and even like they did 52 last year. Like I don't know what their line is, but I don't see them going up to 62 or 63 going into next season. I think that's a massive jump, and I don't like it. Even with the players they have, I think they have a really good team. I don't like that big of a jump.
Yeah, yeah, it is a very, very big jump. And I think the only thing is that last year they had such bad injury luck that you could say if they
Yeah,
were fit they would have hit higher. But again, you don't if they're consistently having bad injuries, it's hard to say that that's going to stop too.
yeah.
So then looking at the ceiling with the current roster and coach for the season ahead, what have you gone for there?
Potentially a top three seed. Maybe challenge for the division crown even, but yeah, I think that's their ceiling. I don't think they're winning it this year, but I think they have enough to maybe get a divisional crown. But it will take a lot of luck and a lot of keeping people fit, taking better 3 points, not fouling so much, and we'll see what they can do then.
And how far do you think they could get in the playoffs? Would you see them getting as far as an Eastern Conference Finals, or do you think they'll fall short?
Yeah, no, I think they could get to an Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think they will, but again, like with Suggs, if he can stay fit with Bain, Banchero, then I think they have a strong enough core there to be a real force. It's just can they do it? Can they all stay in this court at the same time? It's where the problem might be.
Yeah, I've gone with getting to the East Finals if everything clicks. They're just
Mm.
a very physical team that they have probably the best defense. I think statistically they're like the best defense in the league, but they were in the bottom five offensively. So if they can push that offense even to the top 17, top 18, they'll be even better. They probably want to be in the top 15 to challenge for anything if you're a mid-level offense but an incredible defense, you can still challenge. And I think if they do push it up to that level with the additions that they've had and the East being a little bit weaker, I think there's an advantage they could take there and maybe, as we've mentioned a couple of times, knock off the Knicks in a big physical game, using their advantages to them against the Knicks and teams like that against them. So I could see them getting to the Eastern Finals. I just don't think that they're ready yet to get to the finals. But I like the team. I like the way they're building. Offensively, they need to step up a lot.
Mm.
So that's our three NBA teams for the week. This is our very last draft. So until we're done, gone chance again, and it rolls back around next year. But our last draft is kind of in the theme of what we're looking at right now. We're heading into the World Cup qualifiers for Ireland. The first game is on Saturday and against Hungary in the Aviva. I'll be there myself. I'm very much looking forward to it. A sold out stadium. Let's see if Heimer can fulfill his promises. But we're looking at the best teams in international football from Europe. So we're kind of aiming it in a way that which teams do we think could challenge the most in the World Cup next summer? But we're just picking European teams because obviously that's mostly what we have on offer to us around here, what we're watching. So last week you went first. I'll
Hmm.
go first this time around. There's to me there's like three very good options at the top. There's one I'd probably like more than the others. I might regret leaving one of the others on the board, but anyway, I'm gonna take Spain. They won the Euros last time around. Incredibly good team, very young. They could play a lot of different ways to be honest because of the talent that they have. You need look no further than the likes of Yamal for for guys that are on this team that have potential. So
Mm.
I'm going to take Spain. I think they're the strongest, and I could see them pushing for a World Cup next summer. Definitely.
Yeah, they were my top spot as well. So I'm going to go to my second choice, which is Hugo Ekitike's France. I think in general, France have just such a good squad. I was watching a video today, and the goals they score in training, it's just some magic beans when they go in there. Like Hugo Ekitike scored a back heel to volley from the penalty spot today, and then you have Ray and Cherky scoring those screamers last
Always
year, and
Turkey.
Mbappe.
Always
It's
Turkey.
it's utterly mad. I know he's out for 3 months now, so he's not there
Yeah.
this time. But I just think France they have a young squad. They're beefing up. Too many Camavinga midfield is incredible. They're really really good. My second pick is a bit of a risky one, but I'm going to give it to Portugal. Um, I think it's Ronaldo's last dance, really, isn't it? I think they've such a good squad. The
Unbelievable.
lads from PSG are insane. João Neves and Vitinha is just some midfield, especially when they're
And
playing
Nuno
together every
Mendes.
week. Yeah, Nuno Mendes. It's so good to have players like that who are playing together, winning things together at club level, coming into the international level. Then
Yeah.
you have Ronaldo setting the standards. As much as I dislike him, he knows how to set a standards. I think they're just absolutely quality, absolutely
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah. I had them as my next. I had France and then Portugal as my next two. So we're going in
Yeah,
lockstep so far. I really like the Portuguese squad, as you mentioned, and obviously, Bruno Fernandes being there too, constantly output for him on that team. Ronaldo the same, non-stop. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to Ireland having to play them twice in the
yeah,
qualifiers. But I am looking forward to getting to see some of those guys in the flesh in Dublin, because I've got my tickets secured for the all of the Ireland games. But next up, I'm going to go for one who probably have been underwhelming in recent years, but to go back to the last World Cup, I think they showed that they can still fight. Taking Argentina to penalties and continuously being a very solid team is the Netherlands. I like their squad a lot. I like a lot of their young players, the likes of Javi Simons, and I think Memphis Depay is always really, really good for them. No matter
yeah.
what way he's
Somehow,
playing at club level, he's class for them, and their defense is class as well with Van Dijk and Van de Ven centre backs. So I'm going to pick those next. Next up, I'm going with England. I think they've got a lot of options. Whether Tuchel can do the right thing with them or not is another question. But if you look at pure talent and squad depth, they've really got it there if they can pick the right team. I don't like some of the
yeah.
players they've been picking recently, but if everybody hits the right hymn sheet and things work, it's hard to look past them to be one of the best teams from Europe. So I'm going with them next.
Yeah, unfortunately so. My next one, I'm taking Germany. Um, I think they're just Germany when it comes to international tournaments. They always show up, they always do something. I think the five teams we picked before them have a better chance of winning it out this year, but I do think they're definitely the sixth best option from Europe. And after Germany, I'm going to take the mighty Irish. I'm taking the sympathy vote here. Um, Heimer has promised us a World Cup. He's told us buy the tickets, buy the hotels. He now has to fulfill the promise and get us there. And if we get there, what's to stop us other than the six teams we've already mentioned?
Yeah, that's a brave pick, definitely. I think I hope we go out on Saturday and kind of back that kind of belief that we all
Put
have
down
in
the
them.
stall. Yeah,
I think they're much improved, and I like a lot of the options that we have now. And if Evan Ferguson can hit the ground running like he has done early this season,
yeah.
it's going to be special. So yeah, fingers crossed with that one. With Germany, I had them in sixth as well. I just think they're not the Germany of old.
No,
Some of the players there are quite poor compared to looking at the likes of Spain, France, Portugal.
yeah.
So that's the reason. Now, next up is someone for me that hasn't played that well, and they've been very underwhelming. But I think that they do have a very, very good squad, and that's Italy. Just the players they have at hand, some of their defenders, as usual, are brilliant. That midfield with Tonali in there, I think they've got some great options, but they haven't been proven it as of late. But I still think that they're worth a shout in the top 10. And then my last pick is Denmark. I think they're just a really, really well drilled team. I
Mm.
like how they play. I like a number of their players across the board. They've got a good midfield. I like Hjumland a lot, and I like their defense too. So I think they've also got options up front. So that's another important thing. I think some other teams teetered on my mind, but I think that they're well drilled. They've played together for a long time. Ericsson always still does perform for them, even at an older age. And they've got some good talent across Europe. So I'm going with them. I
Yeah,
take it you
I
wanted
like
them.
those picks. I wanted Italy or Denmark. I didn't think you were going to take the two of them. I didn't think I was going to get down to my options being Croatia or Austria, to be perfectly honest, but I'm going to have to take Croatia.
Yeah.
Should have left Ireland till fifth and taken one of the two. But anyway, I made the same mistake in my fantasy league last night. But here we are. I don't really have a whole lot to say about Croatia because I didn't look into them too much. I really didn't think I was going to end up with them in my draft, but here we are anyway. So I have France, Portugal, Germany, Ireland, Croatia.
Yeah, and I've got Spain, Netherlands, England, Italy, and Denmark. And I also, if we're looking at in terms of our lists, we were pretty much the exact same. I had Croatia next as well. And as a an emergency pick in case it did go all the way down, I had Norway there because I like some of their potential.
Yeah,
But
Holland.
yeah, I think we're I think we're fairly in unison with the teams and where we rank them. So that's the last draft. Let us know if you enjoyed them, and if you have suggestions throughout the year, we'd be happy to do them next summer when we're getting
Absolutely.
straight into our drafts again. But that's another week, another episode. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. Two episodes this week. We really appreciate if you could like or share or whatever, because we put a lot of time into this. Obviously, we love doing it, but we would like to get it shared around as much as possible so that as many people can hear us. So, yeah, subscribe if you haven't already and all that good stuff, and give us a follow on socials. Shane, I'll throw it to you to wrap us up.
Yeah, we just appreciate the support so far, and we could just try and push it a bit more. That'd be absolutely great. As James said, it's a lot goes into it, and it's great. It's just great to see more and more people enjoying it, more and more people talking about it. More comments, everything would be absolutely brilliant. And don't forget to leave us a rating on the podcast apps because that helps push it as well. So we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
Nice one, lads.